God didn't improvise the Great Commission. He planned it centuries before Jesus was born. Let's get into it.
Hey everyone, it is so good to be with you today. Have you ever started a massive project like putting together a 1,000-piece puzzle or a complicated piece of furniture without looking at the instructions? It usually ends in total confusion, right? Well, when it comes to spreading the faith, God didn't leave us guessing. He actually laid out the entire plan hundreds of years before Jesus was even born. We can find this blueprint in the Old Testament, specifically in the book of Isaiah. Back then, people thought God's blessings were only for one specific group, but Isaiah dropped some major hints that God's love was way bigger than that. In Isaiah 49:6, God says the Messiah wouldn't just save one nation, but would be a light to the Gentiles, bringing salvation to the very ends of the earth. Later, in chapter 56, he says God's house will be a house of prayer for all nations. He even predicted that outsiders would become spiritual leaders. This wasn't a backup plan, it was the original design. God always intended for the whole world to hear the good news, and he chose us to help make that happen. Generations later, when Jesus finally began his earthly ministry, things were pretty divided. At that time, religious rules and ethnic backgrounds felt like massive, unbreakable walls keeping people apart. But Jesus came to perfectly fulfill the Old Covenant, which essentially tore those walls right down. He completely shifted the focus from who your family was to what was inside your heart. It was all about universal faith, not your family tree. Think about how Jesus acted during his ministry. He didn't just hang out with people who looked like him or shared his background. He openly praised the incredible faith of a Roman centurion and a Canaanite woman who were both total outsiders to the religious community of that day. He even told parables, which are short stories with big meanings, warning that the invitation to God's kingdom was expanding to everyone on the outside. Finally, right before he returned to heaven, Jesus gave his followers what we call the Great Commission. He explicitly commanded them to go out and make disciples of all nations. He made it crystal clear the gospel is a gift meant for every single person on this planet, without exception. Now, you might be thinking, that sounds like a huge job. Who am I to go around sharing a message like this? That is a totally normal thing to feel. But here's the secret. Our authority to spread the gospel doesn't come from our own talent, our own popularity, or how smart we think we are. It comes directly from the supreme, universal authority of Jesus Christ himself. When Jesus gave the Great Commission in Matthew 28, the very first thing he said was, "All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me." Think about that for a second. He has total control over everything. And then, using that absolute power, he gives us our marching orders. But he doesn't just leave us to figure it out on our own. In the book of Acts, he promises that we will receive power when the Holy Spirit comes upon us. We aren't doing this in our own strength. The Bible even calls us ambassadors for Christ. We are official representatives of the King of Kings. When you share God's love, you stand in his authority, not your own.
So, what happened when the disciples actually received this incredible authority? It launched a spiritual revolution. We see this clearly in the book of Acts, starting with chapter 2 during a holiday called Pentecost. The disciples were waiting together in Jerusalem when the Holy Spirit suddenly appeared in an incredibly powerful, supernatural way. Remember the ancient story of the Tower of Babel, where human languages were completely confused and people were scattered apart? Well, at Pentecost, God did the exact opposite. He enabled the apostles to suddenly speak in all kinds of different native languages that they had never learned before. Visitors from all over the world were amazed because they could hear the wonders of God in their own tongues. This sign wasn't just a cool party trick. It was a visual demonstration that the message of Jesus was designed to cross every cultural boundary and language barrier imaginable. It directly fulfilled the ancient prophecy of Joel, who said God would pour out his Spirit on all people. The early church was officially open for business, and its mission was global from day one. We are part of that same ongoing mission today. Even after that amazing start, the early believers still had some old cultural biases to overcome. They still struggled with the idea of accepting non-Jewish people into their community. So in Acts chapter 10, God decided to do something dramatic to break down those lingering walls once and for all. He gave the apostle Peter a vivid supernatural vision to show him that no person should be considered unclean or unwelcome. While Peter was still processing this, he was invited to the house of a Roman army officer named Cornelius. As Peter began to share the story of Jesus with Cornelius and his family, something incredible happened. The Holy Spirit fell upon everyone in the room, just like it had happened to the apostles back in Acts chapter 2. The Jewish believers who came with Peter were absolutely stunned. This identical spiritual filling was the ultimate proof that could not be denied. It showed that everyone has equal standing before God. Later on, leaders like Paul and Barnabas used these very events and the words of Isaiah to boldly justify taking their ministry to the entire world. So, why does all of this ancient history matter to you and me today? It matters because you are a vital part of this story. The same blueprint that Isaiah wrote about, the same mission that Jesus commanded, and the exact same Holy Spirit power that showed up at Pentecost belongs to us right now. You are not an accidental bystander in God's kingdom. You are an active participant with a purpose. When you look around your school, your neighborhood, or your workplace, you are looking at the very people Jesus sent us to reach. You don't need to be perfect, and you don't need to have every single theological answer memorized. You just need to be willing to share the hope and love that Jesus has given to you. Remember, you walk into your day as an official ambassador for Christ, backed by His supreme authority and empowered by His Spirit. So let's take up that calling with confidence, step out of our comfort zones, and continue to shine His light to the ends of the earth. Thank you so much for watching, and go make a difference.
What has God been nudging you to do that you've been avoiding? Drop it in the comments below.
We love bringing you new content. If you've enjoyed the video, be sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons.